So, a few weeks ago, a proof of concept animated short appeared online called Small Soldiers. And that reminded me of the original film. So, buckle up, buckaroos. We're headed back to the 90s to discuss Dreamworks' live action movie Small Soldiers. Hello, friends and family members. Welcome to the Fangirl. I'm your hostess, McGann, reporting for duty to the Commando Elite Army. Seriously, if you haven't watched this movie, Small Soldiers is as flipping cool as it is weird. A toy company makes interactive war toys whose artificial intelligence is so advanced that the toys learn and adapt. These toy soldiers will stop at nothing to defeat their enemies, the Gorgonites. So, in their quest to vanquish these Gorgonite enemies, the Commando Elite soldiers are grabbing everything they can get their tiny plastic hands on to fashion into military weapons. Corncob skewers as missiles, flaming tennis balls. This film existed during an age where there wasn't a national tragedy every week due to weaponized violence. Therefore, movies and toys could get away with having a lot of things that would drop our jaws today. Which means you need to keep in mind that Small Soldiers was meant to be crazy chaos fun, even if it does seem a little controversial today. And despite being from 1998, the graphics have held up really well. But before we get too deep into this, let me pause to remind you that 1, this is an info dumping of knowledge, not a theory, so there will be links in the description below, including a link to my beloved Danny Quinn, who has offered me her aid as a research assistant so that I can verify or correct my information faster. And I've also recently opened up channel memberships because my car got stolen and now I'm in a pickle. So there will also be a link in the description for how you can become a channel member. There are different perks. I am open to feedback on making these perks better, but if you are willing and able, I could certainly use the extra support right now. Now, back to the movie. A lot of people don't realize that Small Soldiers was released by Dreamworks Pictures. Yeah, that's right. Dreamworks isn't exclusively an animation studio. Although a movie like Small Soldiers definitely has a lot of stop-motion animation, CGI, animatronics, and practical effects. So, consider it an animated movie if you want. But all of the human actors are, indeed, flesh and blood on screen, and most, if not all of the settings, are physical sets, not rendered backgrounds. I will admit, I went to grad school for animation, and even I'm unclear on whether or not this classifies as an animated or live-action piece. So go ahead and argue amongst yourselves in the comments. This movie also has a PG-13 rating because, frankly, the plot is a lot darker than a traditional kids movie. And according to the director, Joe Dante, there is a tone issue with Small Soldiers as he was initially told by the studio to make an edgy film for teens, but sponsorship started to tie into the movie, and DreamWorks gave orders to switch gears and make Small Soldiers into a family-friendly kids film, which was not an easy thing to do with the overall concept of the plot. I mean, the only goal of the Commando Elite toys is to eradicate the Gorgonites. Flat out genocide is the intent. And the Gorgonites are very kind and peaceful. So when this movie has to pull punches in the script, the theme ends up conflicting with making a kid-friendly romp. So there are lots of areas in Small Soldiers that end up feeling muddled and unfulfilling, which is probably why Small Soldiers is the first and only VHS tape that's rated PG-13 while being sold in the recognizable kid-friendly clamshell casing. And if you've ever wondered why our main bad guy of the film, Major Chip Hazard, is reaching out on the posters like he's an outlander trying to find his partner lost in time, that's because the original design had Chippy holding a gun pointed directly at the viewer. But even back in the 90s, that was considered crossing a line once Small Soldiers was squished up to fit into a kid-friendly box. So marketing removed the gun and left everything else the same, same because that's not a weird pose at all after you remove the weaponry. This is why you don't let yes men make decisions. Okay, to give a quick summary of the movie, a weapons manufacturer called Globotech Industries acquires the Heartland Toy Company, and while rushing to meet production deadlines, one of the toy designers mistakenly orders Globotech's X1000 microprocessor because, random parts for weapons of mass destruction are easy to order without the proper clearance if your toy company has a militaristic parent company. Hooray! But this misunderstanding brings us the Commando Elite and the Gorgonites, who are toys designed to play with their owners and learn as they go. Kinda like a warmongering Furby, or a regular Furby if you left it alone with others. Then we have our protagonist, teenager Alan, who is running his dad's hobby shop while he's away, and Alan ends up getting and activating some of these figures before they're officially released. So before Alan knows it, there is a literal war going on around his neighborhood as the Commando Elite relentlessly pursue the passive Gorgonites. Luckily though, the X1000 microprocessors are susceptible to electromagnetic pulses, and one good EMP blast knocks out all of the soldiers. The Gorgonites get to survive though because they manage to shield themselves from this invisible blast. And the film ends with the Gorgonites sailing away to find their fictional, I repeat, fictional homeland of Gorgon, never to be seen again as they suffer with military-grade sentience in hard plastic bodies until the end of time, I guess. Yay? Also, while I do like the twist of the more traditionally beautiful characters being the villains and the uglier characters being the good guys, it really makes you walk away with mixed feelings about how the story plays out, as well as the US military in general. You want to know why millennials are so distrusting and cynical? Blame small soldiers. However, this plot also feels derivative of the Chimera Toys in Sid's room in the original Toy Story movie, which was released 3 years prior in 1995. Small Soldiers was given a budget of $40 million and grossed $87.5 million in the box office. Now, of that $87.5 million, $55.2 million of that came from the United States and Canada. So, I think it's safe to say that no one outside of America really knew how to receive this movie either. As stated, the director of Small Soldiers was Joe Dante, who had previously directed The Burbs and Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Supposedly, Dante had wanted the cast of 1987's Predator movie to voice the toys, but that idea never came to fruition. However, we still received quite an impressive cast list. Some of the live-action characters include Kirsten Dunst, Gregory Smith, Jay Moore, David Cross, Dennis Leary, Kevin Dunn, Phil Hartman, and Wendy Schaal. Schaal? The action figures were voiced as follows. The Commando Elite, Major Chip Hazard was Tommy Lee Jones. Brick Bazooka was voiced by George Kennedy. Butch Meathook was Jim Brown. Kip Killigan came from Ernest Borgnine. Nick Nitro was Clint Walker. And Link Static was Bruce Dern. Most of these actors were from 1967's The Dirty Dozen, which, if you're unfamiliar with that title, it's essentially like the Suicide Squad, but without superpowers, and it's set during the World War II era. And the Gorgonites were voiced by Archer was Frank Langella. Slamfist and Scratchit were voiced by Christopher Guest. Insaniac / Troglodyte, or sometimes also known as Freakenstein, was Michael McKean. Punch-It was Harry Shearer. And Ocula, who doesn't even speak, so what the heck is this credit about, was apparently Jim Cummings. Similarly, the Gorgonites are voiced by cast members of 1989's rockstar mockumentary, This Is Spinal Tap. Also, Christina Ricci and Sarah Michelle Gellar had notable roles as the voices of the annoying Gwendy dolls. As it would turn out, Small Soldiers would become the final performances of Phil Hartman, who was removed from the land of the living by his wife 2 months prior to the film's release, and Clint Walker, who retired from acting. Small Soldiers also had a number of video games known as Small Soldiers on the PlayStation and Game Boy, as well as Small Soldiers Squad Commander and Small Soldiers Globotech Design Lab on the PC. All of these titles were released in 1998. Aside from games, a soundtrack for the film was released, along with a toy line that was handled by Kenner, and a Burger King toy release that was allegedly agreed to before Small Soldiers was given its PG-13 rating. And finally, that short film I told you about is apparently the proof of concept from Commodran Studios to support a video game that they're developing entitled Small Soldiers: War for Necron. And that short is interesting. I encourage you all to check it out and give it support. But whether that has any official tie-ins to the Small Soldier franchise, or if another company just bought the name to do something new with the war between toys, that has yet to be seen. So the Commando Elite may be suiting up again, or not. Alright, that's about all of the facts that I can find thus far, but I want to spend some time to complain a little bit about how this movie handles the female characters. Scary feminazi is going to bring up issues of equality. But really, it is so frustrating to be a girl who loves action, adventure, sci-fi, superheroes, really all the quote boy stuff, and to have all of these movie companies not want to bother with any representation for the girls. I know things have changed a lot and it has gotten better overall, but I already grew up in the 90s, so that helps me not. I need to vent. And yes, Small Soldiers does have multiple lady characters. Alan's mom is awesome when she's hitting flaming tennis balls at the soldiers, but her character gets like 3 minutes of screen time in a nearly 2-hour movie. And she's also countered with another mom character who's drunk off her rear during the film. Like, she is wasted in every scene she's in. And the main young girl, Christy, is written to be an average love interest who offers nothing very personal about herself to relate to. Sure, she helps out and gets into the smashy groove, but she's also rarely on screen without doing or saying something related to dating or the service of men, like babysitting her brother. Can someone tell 90s Dreamworks that girls are more than just tough-talking single chicks waiting for a man to enhance their lives? Seriously, give me one personality trait about Christy that isn't related to boys. In fact, Dreamworks was so convinced that this was going to be a boys-only movie that the only female toy we see are those Gwendy dolls. In the year 1998, the same year that Mulan came out, mind you, it's weird to not even get one female Gorgonite or Commando Elite figure. If you haven't seen Small Soldiers in a while, you might think that the Gwendy dolls sound like the filmmakers were including the female market, but when the Commando Elite find the Gwendy dolls, first, they make non-stop, lewd comments about wanting to get nasty with them. Then they strip off all of the dolls' clothes, implant chips between their plastic breasts, even though the male soldiers got to have the chips implanted into their heads. And then they left the Gwendys naked to run around on screen. That's the best you could do, Dreamworks? Really, the 90s was beyond time for movie and toy companies to wake up. I never bought merchandise from Small Soldiers as a kid because there was no female representation available. I understand that back in the day you had to essentially designate a toy as being for boys or for girls, but even if you assume your market is predominantly dudes, you should, at a bare minimum, make 2 female characters for each side. Why, you may ask? Well, because as a girl, I will be drawn in and relate to the female characters the most. And I should at least have some choice. I don't like it when I have to relate to the one girl in the group because she's the only female available. Like Justice League, animated Wonder Woman was never my cup of tea. But Hawk Girl? Oh man, channel my rage and take my money, DC. Same with X-Men. I bought dozens of action figures, but they were predominantly female, and anything with Rogue in particular I would grab as fast as I could. Even the Aliens action figures in the 90s. I had every alien and every member of the Marine Corps, but it was Ripley who caught my eye and brought me into that toy line and got hundreds of my dollars as a kid because there was a female factor that caught my interest. So, marketing 101. Girls will totally buy and play with, quote, boy toys, but you have to put in some effort to include us in the action. Otherwise, we have no incentive to get involved with the franchise. Don't make us females vapid, nude Barbie doll knockoffs or tacky love interests. Let girls be suitable, formidable heroes and villains too. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, hey, McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that? Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.